そんじゃま一丁やりますか。
やっぱ戦うの？
やってやるぜ親父の敵。
また行っちゃったよ。
艦長出るぜ。
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm taking a look at Radiant Silvergun, another treasure-developed shooter that demands a crazy high price online. It's actually the spiritual predecessor to Ikaruga, another treasure shooter that I reviewed recently, and it was released in arcades and for the Sega Saturn in Japan only in 1998. An updated downloadable version was released on Xbox Live Arcade in September of 2011, and for the more fiscally responsible among us, that would be the most reasonable version to go for, but I've never played that version, so I can't really attest to the differences between the two. Radiant Silvergun actually has a pretty cool plot, and unlike Ikaruga, it's actually explored quite a bit through cutscenes and narration during gameplay. It's set in the year 2520 when the game's 5 central characters are out in Earth's orbit aboard the spaceship Tetra to test out the new Silvergun prototype fighter crafts. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a mysterious ancient artifact is discovered called the Stone-like. Shortly after being discovered, the Stone-like activates and destroys the facility it's being housed in, quickly overwhelms the Earth defense systems, and then wipes out all life on Earth. Now, only the crew of the Tetra remains, and after spending a year in orbit, running low on food and other supplies, they return to Earth with the Silvergun ships, and that's when Stone-like activates its defenses to deal with the crew of the Tetra. As you move from level to level, more of the story is revealed, and it's told out of order in some cases. For a shooter, Radiant Silvergun has a very well-developed story, and I really like that. One thing you can say about Treasure is that their games are never run-of-the-mill. Radiant Silvergun is a top-down shoot-'em-up, which is a genre that by 1998 had been pretty much done to death, but this is actually something pretty different. All 6 of the face buttons have a different shot type map to them, and each one has a different area of effect and different attack strength. The trick is using the right type for the right situation, almost adding something of a puzzle element to the game. The levels are usually pretty short, with the bosses themselves taking up most of the gameplay, so it's not quite a straight-up boss rush mode, but it's close. The bosses always have lots of separate segments that you can attack, but one specific spot that you have to hit to cause damage, and they can be pretty damn tough, especially when that spot is guarded by something else. This isn't necessarily a bullet hell shooter, but there are some segments where it sure feels like one. Radiant Silvergun can be an especially difficult shooter, or at least I think so. I don't mind telling you that I haven't beaten it yet, but it's good enough that I keep playing and keep getting a little further on each playthrough. A lot of the difficulty really comes from the unpredictable patterns of the enemies, bosses, and the stages themselves, which oftentimes involve a lot of twists and turns. The Silvergun isn't exactly the most maneuverable ship ever made, and this is a game where making contact with walls and other solid objects gets you killed. Again, this becomes less of an issue with repeat playthroughs, but I did hurl a few expletives at my TV in the process. Regardless of the occasionally unreasonable difficulty, you have the option to lower it, by the way, and the slightly sluggish movement of your ship. This is a really fun and unique shooter that I certainly don't mind starting over many times. The graphics and sound design, unlike the gameplay in Radiant Silvergun, I find to be pretty basic. The stages don't really have a high level of detail, Nothing supremely colorful, and the bosses can also be very nondescript, just sort of a collection of shapes. The game doesn't look terrible or anything, and at least it doesn't require the use of any additional carts. It's just not a very good looking game either. The animated cutscenes do look great though. The sound design is also kind of generic. It's really subdued, I find, and that's not really what I want to hear when I'm playing a shooter. I definitely prefer to hear something a bit more high tempo and exciting. Again, not terrible, but it doesn't stand out either. This is a complaint I had with Ikaruga as well. Nothing really stands out much about the graphics or the sound design. But overall, despite a few shortcomings, this is a very fun shooter that offers something you won't find in any other games in the genre. Some things could have been done a bit better, but on the whole it's an enjoyable game. The Saturn version goes for ridiculous prices online, and I would not recommend paying those. But like I said, the game was made available on Xbox Live Arcade, so just go for that one. I'm willing to bet you'll be glad you did. Check it out.